Jeff Kerr's in the house from CBS Sports, covers the NFL. And we got a couple NFL things to kind of discuss today as the Eagles, the NFL, the NFC East. Nick Sirianni spoke today. Yesterday, Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata, I thought, had some interesting things to say, and we'll get his thoughts on that right now here on a Sports Bash Happy Hour Friday. Jeff, what's going on, pal?
Hey, Mike. Happy Friday, my friend.
Always, man. Happy Hour Friday. Looking ready for the weekend here as, hey, Jordan Mailata and Andre Dillard both spoke yesterday. Obviously, on January 24th, Nick Sirianni got hired. On the 29th, he spoke about competition. That battle will be probably the biggest competition in the Eagles training camp. But Jordan Mailata sounded like a guy who's, hey, I want to be the best left tackle in football. But Andre Dillard really said something interesting, Jeff. He said, that injury brought a fire that I didn't know that I had, because that's been one question about Dillard, whether he has that fire. I thought that was interesting, and now I'm really looking forward to how that all plays out.
You know, Mike, outside of a quarterback competition training camp, this is going to be the best training camp competition we're going to see in years because, as we all know, left tackle is probably the second most position on the offense outside of quarterback. And we are going to figure out who is going to be the left tackle of this team, not just this year, but for years to come. Because let's face it, whoever loses this job, if the other guy doesn't get hurt, they're the left tackle. Bottom line, like if Andre Dillard can't beat out Jordan Mailata this year, what makes him think he's going to beat him out in 2022 or 2023? It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I was really intrigued by what Andre Dillard said. I felt like he grew up. I felt like he matured. One of the comments I liked what Andre Dillard said was, I wasn't aware of how I'm putting words in his mouth here pretty much. How, I don't want to say vicious Philadelphia can be, but vicious the NFL is, or, how under the microscope he was. I don't think he got that out in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that was one of the things coming in is he tough enough to play in the NFL, right? And obviously he played that game against, I forget who it was, but he played right tackle, and he did not play well. And then he said, well, I didn't really, didn't feel comfortable playing right tackle. So that kind of was something that really stood out about his first season. Those two guys in this season will be interesting. Now, today, Nick Sirianni, after practice, he mentioned about competition and all that kind of stuff, but I thought one of the interesting things that Sirianni talked about was some of the things they did today to kind of do that. He had, Devonta Smith and Fulgham going up against the Green Machine, and, it seems that Sirianni has brought out this spirit and this competitive nature of this young group.
Yeah, that's one thing I really like. And I'm actually writing a piece right now on what he said about Jalen Hurts. He couldn't believe the fire Jalen Hurts has and how he brings it on all his teammates here. And I think he fits right into what Nick Sirianni wants to do. I think when they talked to Nick Sirianni this offseason, do you want to get your own quarterback in here? He said, you know what? I kind of like the guy that's here right now. And, let's see what we got here. And I feel like that energy is just spreading throughout this entire team. And I think Andre Dillard's realizing it too. He goes, look, what did Nick Sirianni say today? Like, right as Prescott, I just lost a 3-point competition to Greg Ward. So, even the head coach is competing with his players in the most minuscule of tasks. And I just think it's rubbing off on this entire group. I think that's why Eagles fans are kind of getting a little excited about this team. It goes, well, we may not be that great of a team, but we're going to fight to the bitter end. Yeah,
and I thought, one thing about every team, but, this team too, they're very young, especially at the receiver spot. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, John Hightower, Quez Watkins, obviously Jalen Reagor. They didn't get these opportunities last year, right? They didn't get a chance to do any of what's going on right now. How big that is to get these opportunities with a coaching staff that is really focused on that position.
Yeah, especially not when you had Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, but like, oh, I'm there, I'm back, baby. Let's put them right into the lineup and take opportunities away from Travis Fulgham, from J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Not that they deserve to actually play over those guys because they didn't show enough, but they didn't really get that fair opportunity here, that fair target share, that fair snap count, or snap discrepancy here. So yeah, like this year, it just feels like these guys, it's show me what you got. And, we're going to find out in training camp and in this preseason if they're good enough. And even into the regular season, it's a younger team. I don't want to say a faster team or a better team, but I feel like it's going to be what I said earlier. Show me what you got, and we're going to find out if these guys can play.
Yeah, there's no question that that wide receiver, like, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I saw a picture today on Twitter that somebody tweeted out of Sirianni talking to him like one-on-one. And I'm like, man, I want to see how much he can get out of J.J. Is there anything left to get out of him? If this staff can't get it, then you got to give up on this guy.
Exactly. This is year 3, Mike. We got to figure out, some receivers, it does take them to year 3. Look at
that used to be the benchmark, right? That used to be like, okay, it's year 3. Let's see these receivers. But there's been so many receivers over the last, since Randy Moss broke into the league that came in their rookie year but that's not everybody.
No, and look at Devontae Adams. Remember people were saying he was a bust after like 2 years of like, this guy isn't going to get, he's not going to figure it out. Then I think it was 2016, 2017, the guy just exploded. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to be J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, but a lot of wide receivers, it just takes them a while to learn the ins and outs of professional football. Like sometimes it's a change of coaching staff, sometimes it's a change of wide receiver coach. Yeah, not everybody, it's like you said, Mike, not everybody's Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Randy Moss. They just figure it out in year 1. T.O., it took him 3 years to eventually break through as a wide receiver in this league.
Dallas Goedert seemed to hint that he would like Zach Ertz back with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's something that you wrote about at CBS Sports. So tell the people what he said and kind of read between the lines if you could.
So basically what Dallas Goedert was trying to say yesterday is, look, I'm not going to stand at Zach Ertz's way if he wants to come back here. In fact, he would encourage him coming back because of the veteran leadership Zach Ertz brings. And I think it's the competition thing. It's, look, we go well together. It's almost like a peanut butter and jelly type thing. It's, Zach Ertz has been very good as the tight end 1. It's not like, Dallas Goedert doesn't want to be the tight end 1, but I think he knows he's better and Zach Ertz is better when they're both healthy and they're both on the field and they're both going to help a young quarterback out this year. And I think that's what, then look, Goddard said, I'm not going to stand his way here. He's got to do what's best for him. But with a year left on his contract, this is probably going to be the last year the two are going to play together. Dallas Goedert knows his future with the Eagles is secure. He's going to get that contract extension. But this could be his last year playing with his mentor, a guy who's been helping him out since day 1. And I think Dallas Goedert knows the Eagles are better with Zach Ertz on this team than they are without.
Well, I guess the cynic might say this isn't him saying that I'm not good enough to carry the tight end load by myself.
Well, no, and, I think most people would, help. For example, we both can be really good athletes on our rec league teams, but do you want to be the best athlete on your rec league team that's 3-10, or do you want to be, the 5th or 6th best athlete on your rec league team and, you're 11-2? So that's kind of like how I look at it. I think going to the playoffs and being productive is much more important than, actually catching 100 passes for 1,000 yards and your team's 4-13?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it feels like for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, that people are starting to maybe feel that this team could be a little bit better than maybe you felt 2 months ago.
I feel a lot of people, even though they never see Nick Sirianni actually coach a game, I think they're starting to understand what this guy actually is. I don't know if it was a rock, paper, scissors thing or just the whole competition thing, but I think, I don't think the Eagles are overhyping their guys here. I just think, they're seeing from the beat writers. They're seeing from guys that are in the trenches here. Look, the offensive line's healthy. The defensive line's healthy. Honestly, in football, those are the two most important things. If you're going to have those two cohesive units working, you're going to win football games. And the Eagles probably have the best offensive line in the division if they're all healthy. If Brandon Brooks don't get hurt, and that's a big if. If Lane Johnson don't get hurt, that's a big if. But right now, these guys are healthy, and they have depth on the offensive line. They have depth on the defensive line. It's going to be the difference between winning 5 games and winning 8 or 9 games. And that's good enough to win in a bad NFC East. I hate to say it.
Yeah, well, I think that's something to stress is this team's success or failure. I don't think it's, their defense isn't great or whatever. Their defense is going to be middle of the pack average. I think they'll fix the corner spot, all that stuff. It's predicated on the offensive and for the most part, the offensive line, if they get that back, because their defensive line hasn't been an injury problem. Brandon Graham, Kerrigan, Sweat, Barnett. But I think, to me, the success or complete failure of this team is predicated on the health of the offensive line. That's the season for me.
Yeah, I agree. If they lose Jason Kelce, it's a big loss, but at least you have Landon Dickerson to come in there. If they lose Brandon Brooks, okay, at least you have somebody in there, whether that's Landon Dickerson, whether that's Isaac Seumalo, if they move him over, somebody. They're going to have to – I mean, look, if they lose Jordan Milan, at least they know they have Andre Taylor. They have something there. So, again, and, same with Jack Driscoll. Jack Driscoll isn't Lane Johnson, but at least he can fill the void because he got those experiences last year. I think that's what's going to be important for this team. They have a lot of depth and a lot – more positions than what they did the previous year. What I worry about with this team is that second cornerback spot, because it's almost like the Phillies with their fourth and fifth stars. You knew this was going to be a problem all winter, and yeah, they signed guys, but they did nothing to address it. If they go into the year with Michael Jacquet I don't even know how you pronounce his last name at this point. If he's CB2, or if Avante Max is CB2 and they struggle, you're going to have a major problem this year.
Yep, as Michael Jacquet did line up as the starting outside corner today across from Darius Slay. So if that's any indication, yeah, you're going to need a little bit more from your second corner. And on the flip side, like CeeDee Lamb is in this division. He had 74 catches for 935 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had the same problem. He didn't get any of these reps. So you're looking at, I think, play should be improved in the league, but the rookies from last year, I think they're going to take a big jump.
I'll tell you what, especially one of those guys I think is going to take that big jump is CeeDee Lamb. That's what scares me about the Cowboys. Like, I thought he had a good year last year. Now he has full off-season, full mini. And he even said the other day, he said, hey, get your popcorn ready, channeling T.O. here. I think CeeDee Lamb's right. I think he's going to be the number one wide receiver on this football team this year. He's going to be that good.
Yeah, and look, they have a lot of talent on that offense. That's a team that can and don't discount Dan Quinn taking over as the defensive coordinator there.
No, not at all. I mean, it's not hard to be worse than the 30th ranked defense last year, and Dallas's defense was kind of improving after the first 7 to 8 weeks, but at the end of the day, Dallas is like Washington. If they can get a top 15 defense, they're probably going to win the NFC East, just like if Washington can get a top 10 offense, they're probably going to win the NFC East. That's really going to be what the division is decided by. How much can Washington's offense improve or Dallas's defense improve?
You wrote something about Mahomes and what he said about being, 20-0, and people are kind of reading that a little odd. You said you don't mind what he had to say.
No, I don't care, honestly. Because all Mahomes cares about is winning the last game of the season. If we want to be honest, 20-0 is a goal, but who doesn't want to win every time they take the field? That's what he meant. But if you win every time you take the field, you're going to be undefeated, 20-0. It's the same way with you and me, Mike. Every time we do this segment, if we go in the intention we're not going to crush it today. What's the point of doing this? We want to play at the highest level no matter what, and that's Patrick Mahomes. He wants to win every time he's on the football field, and that's where he's getting the 20-0 comment of. People just took it way out of proportion because he said 20-0, Patrick Mahomes. He wants to be like the Dolphins. Well, no, that's not true at all. And he seemed really aggravated about it when I was in on that press conference yesterday, and rightfully so.
Yeah, here's a guy who's already won a Super Bowl, and at such a young age, it's it's okay for him to want to accomplish more, right?
Yeah. I don't think anybody in the NFL wants to win a second championship as bad as Patrick Mahomes does. I think last year, and again, this guy didn't need any extra motivation, but I think last year really ticked him off of what happened, and how unfortunate.
You think about how many more chances he's going to get at this. You would think it. He might not. Look, he could be Dan Marino, get there and never get back. But to think that you got to deal with this guy for the next 10 to 12 years is it's crazy to think. As we're seeing, talk about in the NBA. Maybe LeBron's runs at championships are kind of coming to the end here, which means. Who are these next group of guys? Because we always say, if you don't have LeBron, if you don't have Durant, if you don't have Curry, you're not winning a championship. In the NFL, that group of quarterbacks like Brady, Rodgers, Breeze is gone, Manning's out. This next group is coming in, and now you're already seeing that Mahomes might be that guy that's there, who knows, 5, 6, 7 times the next 10, 15 years.
What was it? I think it was not last year, but 2 years ago. I think it was the first AFC championship where you didn't have Roethlisberger, Manning, or Brady since 2000 and 2? something like that. It was Mahomes. I even forget who the Chiefs beat in the AFC Championship 2 years ago because, I remember they obviously won the Super Bowl, but now you're seeing that next cream of the crop. And I think Mahomes wants to be on top of that because Lamar Jackson ain't going anywhere. I'm sorry for the Lamar Jackson haters. He's not going anywhere. Josh Allen is not going anywhere. Baker Mayfield's rising. There's going to be more quarterbacks coming through. Trevor Lawrence, we want to see how good he's going to be. Kyler Murray, we want to see how good he's going to be. There's just better quarterback play across the board. And once Brady leaves and, whenever that will be, and, same with Aaron Rodgers, the door's going to be wide open, but Mahomes looks like he's going to be front and center, that guy to beat for the next, decade or so.
It should be fun. So, to see these young quarterbacks kind of come in, who's next and who kind of is like the next group of I don't know. It seems like there's going to be probably like 4 or 5 guys that are always, like we saw when we were growing up. It was Manning and Brady and you mentioned Roethlisberger. Like those were the guys. And they hung on to that. Some of them are still going, for God's sake. So who the next group? I think that's kind of interesting to take a look at. So check out Jeff Kerr's stuff over at CBS Sports, at Jeff Kerr, CBS. And, of course, he, like all guests on this Happy Hour Friday, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Jeff. Sixers win this without Embiid or what?
Yeah, I think so. I personally don't think Embiid's going to play Sunday, but it's not like Doc Rivers is going to tip his hand regardless.
No. Well, Doc said today that he worked out, and and Dwight Howard said he looked like the old Embiid. Now, Keith Pompey was on with me about an hour ago. He said he thinks Embiid's going to play Sunday.
Oh, Keith knows a lot more about the Sixers than I do, and I'll tell you what, if Keith says Embiid's going to play, I'll hold him to that. Honestly, I'm just trying to take that negative approach, so I'm not disappointed if he doesn't play on Sunday.
All right, that's 1 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff Kerr, everybody. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it sounds great. Thanks. Oh, by the way, the Chiefs beat the Titans in the 2019 AFC Championship. I can't disrespect Ryan Tannehill.
There you go. No Tannehill disrespect here. I'm a Tannehill guy. Right,
I am
Jeff,
too. Their best passer rating in the NFL the last 3 years. So there you go.
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, covers the NFL. Thanks, man.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Mike.